The stars stretched endlessly across the black canvas of space, distant pinpoints of light flickering like whispers of stories untold. Captain Elena Reyes stood on the bridge of the Odyssey, her hands resting lightly on the rail as she studied the screens before her. The ship hummed softly, the vibrations of the engines a constant reminder of the journey they were on, a journey that no one had truly asked for. Yet everyone felt drawn toward. The signal had been faint, almost lost among the static of deep space communication channels. It carried a desperation that was impossible to ignore. An alien voice, regal and commanding yet tinged with fear, had called out for help. Most would have ignored it, most had. The galaxy was full of warnings, crises, and false alarms. But there was something about this call that Elena could not dismiss. Something human in its plea, even though it was spoken by a creature utterly unlike herself. "Captain, I've enhanced the signal," said Lieutenant Raffi, moving toward the display with a tablet in hand. His dark eyes were alert, scanning the data streams. "It's from a Xipherian source. The Queen, I think. They're not well. Whatever is happening over there, it's bad." Elena nodded slowly, her mind racing with possibilities. The Xipherians were not unknown to humanity, but contact had always been limited to brief scientific exchanges or distant observation. Never had they asked for help. Never had they shown vulnerability in such an open, desperate way. "Plot a course, Lieutenant," she said, her voice steady but firm. "Let's see who is sending this cry." The Odyssey adjusted its trajectory, engines flaring softly as it left the familiar routes of human space and ventured into the uncharted outskirts. The crew worked in a quiet rhythm, each member absorbed in their tasks, yet a shared tension filled the air. They all knew that venturing into unknown territory carried risks, sometimes the kind that could end not just missions, but lives. Hours passed as the ship drew closer to Virelia, the planet from which the signal originated. Sensors detected fragments of abandoned spacecraft drifting near the orbit, twisted metal glinting under the light of a distant sun. Elena frowned. "That's a lot of debris. They didn't just call for help. They were attacked." "Yes, Captain," Raffi replied, scanning the readings. "These crafts don't match Xipherian design. They're more advanced, more aggressive. Whoever did this, they didn't leave survivors." A hush fell over the bridge. Even the most seasoned crew members felt the weight of the silence, broken only by the soft beeping of instruments and the low hum of the ship's systems. Elena's eyes traveled across the stars, imagining the alien world below. Virelia had been thriving once, a jewel of forests, oceans, and cities that shimmered with the Xipherians' elegant designs. Now, according to what the sensors hinted, it was a battlefield, its people hidden, desperate, and perhaps alone. "Prepare the landing shuttle," she said finally. "I want a team ready. We don't know what we're walking into, but we need eyes on the surface." The shuttle detached smoothly, cutting through the atmosphere of Virelia with a hiss. Below, the planet was scarred. Cities lay in ruins, and what was left of the forests appeared burned or stripped bare. Smoke curled into the sky in thin gray threads, drifting across the horizon like mournful ribbons. Elena's team moved cautiously, the shuttle's engines shutting down with a soft thrum. They stepped onto the cracked ground, dust rising around their boots. Lieutenant Raffi scanned the area with a handheld device, while Dr. Mira Chen, the ship's xenobiologist, knelt to examine the soil and remnants of alien flora. "This is worse than I imagined," Mira murmured, her voice tight with concern. "The ecosystem, it's collapsing. They must have been under attack for months." Elena nodded, her eyes on the distant outline of what remained of a city. The architecture was alien, graceful in its lines but broken and jagged now. Towers leaned at impossible angles. Streets were littered with debris, and the occasional flicker of light hinted at survivors, hiding in fear. A sudden movement caught Elena's attention. Shadows darted between the wreckage. She raised her hand. "Hold position. Show yourselves." From the shadows emerged a figure tall and regal, yet with an unmistakable air of vulnerability, the alien queen herself. Lysira's skin shimmered faintly, reflecting the dim light, her eyes filled with a mixture of sorrow and hope. She did not raise a weapon. She did not speak immediately. Instead, she regarded the humans with a careful curiosity, as if measuring their intentions. Elena stepped forward. "Queen Lysira?" she asked gently. "We received your call for help. We're here to see what we can do." Lysera's gaze softened, though her stance remained proud. Humans, she said, her voice melodic but edged with pain. You are unexpected. I thought no one would heed my call. My people, and we are dying. Our enemies are relentless. We have no strength left to resist them alone. The humans exchanged glances. Captain Elena could sense the truth in Lysera's words. The Queen was not making idle threats or exaggerating. This was genuine desperation. Tell us everything, Elena urged. We can help, but we need to know what we're facing. Lysera nodded, a gesture of fragile trust. She led them through the ruins, revealing the extent of the devastation. Entire districts lay in ruin, families hidden in underground shelters and the remnants of their once proud defense forces scattered. They come from beyond our galaxy, Lysera explained, a force of machines organized, unyielding. They strike without warning and leave nothing behind. Our fleets were crushed, our cities razed. We had hoped perhaps some other species would intervene. But the galaxy remained silent. Until you. Elena listened intently, weighing the gravity of the situation. She knew the risks of engaging with a force like this, but she also knew that turning away was not an option. Not for her, not for her crew, and not for the innocent lives at stake. We won't let you face this alone, Elena said finally. We'll help you, but we'll need a plan. We need to understand your strengths, your weaknesses, and the nature of your enemy. Lysera's eyes glimmered with the first real hint of hope. You are different, she murmured. Most would have left us to die. You see more than just a species in peril. You see people. They spent the following hours mapping out the situation, Lysera sharing what little remained of her strategic records. The humans learned of the enemy's patterns, the weaknesses they had noted but could not exploit, and the desperate measures they had considered but lacked the resources to enact. Dr. Mira Chen knelt beside a ruined communication tower, scanning for residual energy signatures. Captain, there's still some intact tech here. With modifications, we could use it to gather intelligence or even defend certain zones temporarily. Elena nodded. Good, every advantage counts. Lieutenant Rafi, start cataloging everything we can salvage. We need to know what's usable, what's dangerous, and what can be turned against them. As they worked, the humans and the Zyfarians began to understand one another. Misunderstandings were common, gestures misread, but slowly trust grew. Lysera's presence inspired respect, not fear, and Elena's determination inspired confidence in her people. Night fell over the ruined city, though the concept of night was different here. Ferelia's twin moons cast silver light across the landscape, illuminating the broken towers and quiet streets. Fires burned in controlled zones, remnants of desperate attempts to keep the cold and darkness at bay. Elena stood on a small rise overlooking the city. They're counting on us now, she said softly to herself. And we can't fail them. A faint breeze carried the scent of scorched metal and alien vegetation, a reminder that even in despair, life persisted. Somewhere below, hidden among the ruins, children slept in makeshift shelters, unaware that strangers had come to stand between them and annihilation. Lysera approached silently. You carry the weight of more than just your crew, Captain, she said. You carry the hope of a dying people that is a heavy burden. Elena met her gaze. Hope is never a burden if it can be shared, she replied. We'll do what we can, Queen Lysera. That's all anyone can do. For a long moment, the two stood together, human and alien, united by purpose and circumstance. Beyond them, the galaxy stretched on, indifferent and vast. Yet here, on this wounded planet, something small but profound had begun. A bond forged not by chance but by courage, compassion, and the unwillingness to turn away from a desperate cry. The first step had been taken. The journey ahead promised danger, uncertainty, and trials beyond imagination. But in that quiet, starlit moment, Captain Elena Reyes and the Zyfarian Queen Lysera knew one thing with absolute certainty. Neither of them would face the coming storm alone. The sun of Virelia rose slowly, its pale light spilling across the scarred landscape. Smoke still lingered above the ruined cities, curling into the sky in ghostly wisps, and the faint hum of distant machinery reminded the humans that the planet was far from safe. Captain Elena Reyes stood beside Queen Lysera on a hill overlooking the city. The two of them shared a silent understanding. The day ahead would test both humans and Zyfarians in ways they had never imagined. Elena turned to her crew, who were preparing equipment and supplies for a journey into the heart of the ruined city. We move carefully, she instructed. We don't know what's left of their enemies here. and the people hiding in the shadows are counting on us to protect them. Everyone stay alert and stay together. Lieutenant Rafi checked his devices one last time. Sensors are picking up signs of life in several areas, he reported. Some of the survivors are Zypherians, but there are also unusual readings. Could be traps, could be automated defenses. Either way, we need to be ready. Dr. Mira Chen adjusted her scanning equipment and added, the structures here were built with a combination of biological and technological materials. We might be able to use some of the intact systems to reinforce their defenses or track movements. But the energy signatures are faint and unpredictable. We have to be cautious. Lysera nodded, her expression serious but composed. I will guide you to our remaining citizens. They are in hiding, but many are frightened and distrustful. We have lost so much already. They may not accept help easily. The team began their careful descent into the city streets. The ruins were eerily quiet. The remnants of destruction creating shadows that seemed alive. Broken vehicles, twisted metal, and collapsed buildings littered their path. Every step they took was deliberate, measured. The humans knew that any misstep could lead to disaster. Suddenly, a faint noise echoed from a nearby alley, a soft cry barely audible over the wind. Elena motioned for silence, and the team approached with caution. There, huddled behind a collapsed wall, were a group of Zypherian children. Their eyes were wide with fear, their bodies trembling, but they did not flee. Lysera stepped forward gently. It is safe, she said, her voice calm and soothing. These humans have come to help. The children hesitated, unsure. Elena knelt slightly to appear less imposing. We won't hurt you, she said softly. We're here to help your people, your families. You are not alone. Slowly, the children inched forward, curiosity overcoming fear. The humans and Zypherians began to move with them toward a safer area. As they walked, Lysera explained more of the attacks that had devastated her people. The Oblivion Swarm, she said, her voice heavy, is relentless. They do not reason. They do not negotiate. Their numbers are vast and their intelligence is adaptive. When they strike, they leave nothing behind. Our fleets were destroyed in days, our cities burned. We had nowhere left to turn, until now. Elena absorbed the words, her mind racing with strategy and possibilities. We'll need to know their patterns, how they move, how they strike. Every detail counts. Can you show us any records or data left intact? Lysera led them through the ruins to what remained of the Zypherian archives. The building was partially destroyed, but some of the storage devices and holographic records had survived. With careful hands, Dr. Chen and Lieutenant Rafi began scanning and retrieving the information, while Elena watched the Queen move among her people, offering reassurance and direction. Hours passed as the humans and Zypherians worked side by side. Slowly, the picture of the Oblivion Swarm began to emerge. These machines were highly advanced, capable of analyzing and adapting to enemy tactics almost instantly. They did not operate like any conventional military force. Their strategy was fluid, their assaults precise. Every failure Lysera's people had suffered now made sense. We can fight this, Elena said finally, her voice calm but firm. But it will take all of our skills, and it will take trust between us and between your people. Lysera's eyes softened, a mixture of gratitude and hope. Trust has been difficult. So many abandoned us, so many ignored our calls. But perhaps this is different. As the day went on, the humans began to understand the strength of the Zypherians, their intelligence, their ingenuity, and their unbroken spirit despite overwhelming loss impressed every member of the Odyssey crew. Small innovations, clever defenses, and strategies born of necessity filled the ruins. It was clear that these aliens were not just survivors. They were thinkers, fighters, and leaders in their own right. By evening, the team had established a temporary command center in one of the least damaged buildings. The humans worked alongside Zypherian engineers, combining their technology to reinforce defenses and create communication networks that could reach hidden survivors across the city. Every breakthrough brought a small sense of victory, a reminder that even in despair, hope could take root. Elena paused for a moment to look out over the city, watching the faint lights in the distance, small fires, lamps, and glowing energy fields that indicated life persisted despite the devastation. She felt a surge of determination. This was what her crew had trained for, moments when courage and intelligence had to overcome fear and uncertainty. Lysera joined her at the window, silent for a moment before speaking. Your people, you are very different from the rest of the galaxy. Most see only what they can gain. You See what can be saved? Elena smiled faintly. It's what humans do. We survive, yes, but we also help each other and others because we can. Sometimes that's all it takes to change the outcome. Night deepened and the sounds of the city shifted from destruction to cautious activity. Hidden within ruins, families huddled together, some daring to venture outside for food or water. The humans and Zephyrians continued their work, moving silently but purposefully, establishing networks of communication, preparing shelters and mapping safe routes. Suddenly, an alert rang from Rafi's console. Captain, sensors detect movement near the northern sector. It's large, too organized for stray survivors. Could be a scouting unit of the swarm? Elena's brow furrowed. How many? Not sure yet. They're keeping their distance, but they're moving fast. If they detect us, it could be dangerous. Lysera stepped forward, her voice steady. We must act carefully. These units are fast and precise. Any direct confrontation could be fatal. Elena made a decision. We'll track them. We'll learn their pattern and use it to protect our people. No unnecessary risks. Rafi, you and Mira set up surveillance. Lysera, alert the survivors in this sector and keep them hidden. We cannot let fear spread. The team moved into position, setting up scanning devices and observation posts. The faint hum of the machines, combined with the whispers of the wind through broken structures, created a tense but controlled atmosphere. Slowly, the movements of the scouting units became clearer. The humans and Zypharians learned how they approached, how they avoided certain areas, and where they would strike first if detected. This is valuable, Elena said, her voice low. With this, we can anticipate them. We can protect the people and prepare for larger threats. Every small victory counts. As the night wore on, the bond between humans and Zypharians grew stronger. There were moments of laughter as children cautiously approached their new allies, moments of shared food and stories, and moments of quiet reflection under the twin moons. Trust, once fragile, was beginning to take root. By the time dawn approached, Elena stood once again with Lysera, overlooking the city from their vantage point. The faint light revealed the scars of war, but also the glimmers of life fighting back. We have a long road ahead, Lysera said, her voice steady but tinged with worry. The swarm will return stronger than before, but with your people here, perhaps we have a chance we never thought possible. Elena nodded. We'll face it together. Step by step, we'll rebuild, defend, and survive. You're not alone anymore, Queen Lysera. None of your people are. A soft breeze stirred the dust and leaves around them, carrying the promise of a new day. The first real moment of hope in months settled over Virelia. Though danger lingered beyond the horizon, the humans and Zypharians had taken the first steps toward a future where courage, trust, and intelligence might just overcome despair. And for the first time since the Queen's desperate cry had echoed across the stars, someone had truly heeded it. The sun rose again over Virelia, pale light spilling across the ruined city as if to illuminate both hope and destruction. Captain Elena Reyes and her crew had spent the night analyzing the scouting patterns of the Oblivion swarm units, gathering every fragment of data they could. The humans and Zephyrians were slowly learning to work together, blending strategies, technology, and instincts. But Elena knew the real challenge was still ahead. Captain, Lieutenant Rafi said, breaking the quiet of the command center, the data shows something alarming. The swarm isn't just attacking randomly. They're coordinating strikes. And their patterns, they're adapting. Every movement we predict is being countered within hours. They're learning faster than we can anticipate. Elena leaned over the console, studying the readouts. We expected adaptation, she said slowly, but not this speed. It means we'll have to think differently, not just respond. We'll need to anticipate, innovate, and act before they make the first move. Dr. Mira Chen frowned, her fingers dancing over the holographic interface. I've been studying their energy cores and attack protocols. There's a possibility, a weakness subtle but exploitable. If we can target the core systems, we could disrupt their coordination. But it's risky. Getting close enough to test it could cost lives. Lysera, standing nearby, listened silently, her elegant frame tense with concern. We cannot afford to wait, she said finally. Our people hide in shelters, but the swarm's patrols are increasing. If we do not act, they will find the vulnerable first. We have no time for caution alone. Elena nodded. Then we combine both. We protect our people while preparing a strike to test this weakness. I'll need volunteers for the strike team, and the rest of us will focus on defense and evacuation. Hands went up immediately. Crew members of the Odyssey and Xipherian warriors alike stepped forward. Courage shone in their faces. They knew the odds were high, but fear did not dictate their choices. Among them, even the youngest Xipherians, trained in strategy rather than combat, offered to guide the strike team through the safest paths to the enemy positions. The preparations began at once. Humans and Xipherians worked side by side, repairing ancient communication arrays, reinforcing weak shelters, and plotting escape routes. The city, though shattered, became a hive of organized activity. Every small act mattered. Every clever idea could save lives. As night fell, the strike team gathered at the edge of the northern sector, where scouting units had been observed. Elena stood at the front, her face calm but determined. "Tonight," she said, "we learn if this weakness is real. We act carefully, precisely, and together. Every move counts. We are not here to fight for victory alone. We fight for survival, for hope, and for the people who cannot defend themselves." Lysra joined her, her voice quiet but steady. "You lead not just your people, Captain, but ours as well. I trust your judgment. Together, we may yet change the outcome." The team moved into the shadows, slipping silently through streets littered with debris. Sensors glowed faintly, marking the presence of swarm units moving in calculated patterns. Each step was deliberate, each breath measured. Elena's mind worked constantly, calculating distances, timing, and angles. Every member of the team followed her lead, their movements synchronized in a way that felt almost like a single organism. Hours passed as they navigated the ruined city. Small skirmishes erupted as they encountered scouting units, but clever use of technology and Xipherian ingenuity allowed them to disable machines without direct confrontation. Slowly, the team closed in on the target, a cluster of energy cores powering the swarm's nearby attack systems. Dr. Mira Chen and a pair of Xipherian engineers examined the cores carefully. "These are advanced beyond anything we've seen," Mira said. "But there's a critical node here. Disrupt it just right, and the entire network could falter for hours. Enough time for us to protect the civilians." Elena nodded. "Then that's our goal. Precision, not brute force. Everyone ready?" A chorus of affirmations followed. The team moved into position, working in silence. Sparks flickered as devices interfaced with the alien systems. Sweat beaded on foreheads, muscles tensed, and hearts pounded. Every second was a test of patience, skill, and courage. Suddenly, alarms rang out. The swarm had detected their interference. Automated units began converging on the strike team's position. The shadows erupted into movement, metallic limbs, glowing sensors, and the low mechanical hum of deadly precision. "Positions," Elena shouted. "Engage only when necessary. Protect the cores and retreat if it's too dangerous." Fire sparked around them as defensive pulses erupted from improvised shields. The team moved with careful coordination, human and Xipherian side by side, using both strategy and ingenuity to stay one step ahead of the machines. Lysra's voice came through the comms. "Evacuation points are ready. Civilians are being moved. Do not falter." Elena's eyes never left the task at hand. "Almost there, now." With a precise series of actions, the critical node was disrupted. The network faltered, lights dimmed across the city, and the once relentless patrols of the swarm units began to falter. Small victories rippled through the city. Civilians moved through safer routes, guided by Xipherian leaders and human volunteers. For a brief moment, the team could breathe. They had tested the enemy, discovered a weakness, and survived a confrontation that could have easily ended in disaster. But the victory was not without cost. Minor injuries were treated quickly, and a few brave Xipherians had fallen in defense. Every member of the team felt the weight of what they had accomplished and what lay ahead. Elena gathered her team in a quiet corner, away from immediate danger. "We've seen their weakness," she said, voice calm but resolute. "We know that we can fight them, but it will not be easy. The swarm is relentless, adaptive, and intelligent. Every action from now on must be calculated, every decision precise." Lysra joined her, placing a hand on Elena's shoulder. "You have given my people hope," she said softly. "They see that humans do not abandon those in need. That is something they have not known in a long time." Elena smiled faintly. "Hope alone won't win this war," she said, "but it gives us the courage to try. And that courage can change everything." The night passed with quiet vigilance. Humans and Xipherians took turns watching the city, ensuring that civilians remained safe and that the swarm units did not regroup. The bond between the species grew stronger with every shared task, every whispered plan, and every moment of courage under pressure. By dawn, the city seemed almost alive again, not in its old glory, but in the flickering determination of those who refused to surrender. Children emerged from hiding to watch the humans and their leaders work. Families began to rebuild, starting with the simplest tasks, clearing debris, tending to injured, and restoring small portions of their shelters. Elena moved among them, offering encouragement, guidance, and reassurance. She observed the resilience of the Xipherians, how they adapted quickly, learned from mistakes, and innovated with whatever resources remained. Their minds were brilliant, and when combined with human ingenuity, they were unstoppable in their potential. A sudden alert came from Rafi's console, breaking the calm. "Captain," he said urgently, "the swarm is mobilizing a larger force. They've detected anomalies in multiple sectors. This isn't a small scouting group anymore. They're preparing for a full assault." Elena's gaze hardened. "Then we prepare. We'll use the weakness we discovered, coordinate our defenses, and make sure every civilian is protected. We've seen what they can do. Now they'll see what happens when humans and Xipherians fight together." Lizera placed a hand on Elena's arm. "We trust you to lead. You carry not only our hopes but the lives of all who remain." "We will follow you," Elena nodded. "Then let's make sure that trust is not misplaced." Plans were drawn, assignments given, and strategies tested. Humans and Xipherians moved with unity, their differences forgotten in the urgency of survival. Every person, every mind, every skill mattered. Improvised defenses, hidden traps, and carefully coordinated strike teams were ready to face the approaching threat. As the twin moons rose over the horizon, casting silver light over the city, Elena looked at the gathered forces. They were tired, battered, but unwavering. The humans had brought courage, technology, and determination. The Xipherians had contributed strategy, intelligence, and resilience. Together they formed a force that could stand against even the most relentless enemy. Elena's eyes met Lizera's once more. "Tomorrow," she said softly, "we show the swarm that no species fights alone when hope exists. We will defend your people, and we will do it together." Lizera's gaze held gratitude, admiration, and a glimmer of hope. "Then let tomorrow come," she said, "and let it see courage beyond what any of us imagined." The night stretched on, filled with preparations, silent prayers, and the quiet hum of technology and determination. The first true battle against the swarm was coming, and both humans and Xipherians knew that the next steps would define the survival of a civilization. Yet for the first time, they felt something they had not felt in a long time. Not fear, not despair, but a shared determination that they could overcome, that they could endure, and that together they might prevail against the impossible. The first light of Virelia's twin suns barely touched the horizon when alarms began to echo across the city. Captain Elena Reyes was already on the command platform, her eyes scanning the displays as the full scale of the swarm's assault became clear. Hundreds of automated units were converging on multiple sectors simultaneously, their movements coordinated, precise, and deadly. "Captain, they're splitting into 3 waves," Lieutenant Rafi reported, voice tense. "Northern, central, and southern sectors. They're moving fast and adapting to our defenses." Elena took a deep breath. "Everyone positions. Follow the plans exactly. Protect the civilians, hold the lines, and prepare for countermeasures. We fight smart, not just hard." Dr. Mira Chen moved beside her, checking the energy readings from their defensive arrays. "If we can hold them just long enough," she said, "we can use the critical node we discovered to disrupt their coordination. That could give us a real chance." Lizera appeared at Elena's side, her presence calm yet commanding. "The people are ready. They trust your guidance. If we falter now, we lose everything." Elena nodded. "We won't falter. We move together. Humans and Xipherians fight as one." The city erupted into organized chaos. Defensive turrets repaired by human engineers and powered by Xipherian energy cores sprang to life. Civilians were moved through hidden paths, guided by both humans and alien volunteers. Strike teams positioned themselves along expected enemy paths, ready to intercept. The first wave hit the northern sector. Machines moved like a single organism, calculating each step, predicting human reactions. But the combined tactics of humans and Xipherians surprised them. Improvised barriers, clever use of energy fields, and rapid redeployment of troops slowed the advance. Small victories erupted along the streets. Automated units disabled, pathways protected, civilians safely evacuated. Elena moved with precision, her orders clear and confident. Raffi pushed the northern flank. Mira, reinforce the central array. Lysira, lead the civilians to the shelter network. Each member of the team executed their role with focus. Humans used quick thinking to adjust strategies on the fly, while Xipherians contributed intuitive tactics honed over centuries. Together, they created a rhythm that even the swarm struggled to counter. But as expected, the second and third waves arrived almost simultaneously. Central and southern sectors were under direct assault. Structures shook as energy weapons struck, fires erupted, and the hum of mechanical units filled the air. The city that had just begun to feel alive again was now a battlefield. Despite the overwhelming odds, the combined forces held. Humans and Xipherians adapted to each new move by the swarm. Teams communicated through rapid signals, deploying traps, redirecting forces, and using the terrain to their advantage. Every human and a Xipherian had a role. Some focused on direct engagement, others on evacuation, and others on maintaining communication networks. Elena observed the battlefield with a sharp eye. "The critical node," she shouted suddenly. "We need to activate the disruption now before the swarm adjusts again." Dr. Chen and a small strike team moved swiftly, dodging energy blasts and collapsed debris. The node glimmered with alien energy, and as the team interfaced with it, the machine's coordinated attacks began to falter. Lights dimmed, paths slowed, and units collided with one another in confusion. Lysira moved among her people, directing defensive efforts while also shielding civilians. Her presence inspired courage. Xipherians who had once cowered in fear now fought with determination. Together with humans, they turned what seemed like a hopeless situation into a controlled engagement. Even ordinary crew members contributed in unexpected ways. Mechanics repaired critical systems under fire. Medics treated the wounded amidst chaos, and engineers improvised shields and energy diversions. The humans' resilience and ingenuity were on full display, proving that bravery did not belong only to soldiers, but the swarm was relentless. Reinforcements poured in from beyond the city, larger and faster units that adapted to the disrupted patterns. Fires spread uncontrollably in some areas, and smoke filled the air, making visibility nearly impossible. Elena's mind raced. "We need a secondary plan. If the node holds, we buy time, but we cannot rely on it alone." "Lysira, can your forces set up a counter-ambush?" "Yes," Lysira replied, her voice calm despite the chaos. "Follow me. We'll create a trap using the ruins of the Eastern District. The swarm will think it's open, but we can funnel them into a kill zone." Elena nodded, signaling the strike teams to follow. They moved through narrow alleys, collapsed buildings, and over jagged debris, coordinating with Xipherian scouts to lure the swarm into the trap. As predicted, the larger units took the bait, charging toward the apparent vulnerability. At the perfect moment, human engineers activated energy barriers and traps, while Xipherian forces struck from above and the sides. The swarm units were caught in a controlled explosion of coordinated attacks, disabled or forced to retreat. Victory, though temporary, was within their grasp. Elena's heart pounded, not from fear but from the intensity of success. She glanced at Lysira, who smiled faintly through the grime and dust. "We are not finished," Lysira said, "but this is proof that we can fight together." The battle raged on for hours, each wave testing the combined forces' strength and ingenuity. The humans' adaptability, courage, and quick thinking complemented the Xipherians' knowledge, strategy, and precision. Every small victory inspired another, and hope grew even amidst destruction. By late night, the swarm units finally began to withdraw, disrupted and confused by the combined efforts of humans and Xipherians. Fires smoldered in the city, damaged buildings groaned under the strain, and injured civilians were tended to by medics from both species. Elena gathered her team and Lysira in the command center. The energy readings from the swarm units indicated that their coordination had been significantly compromised. They had survived the full assault, and proved that even the most formidable enemy could be challenged when courage and intelligence worked together. "This city is wounded," Elena said, voice steady, "but it is not defeated. Your people have seen that survival is possible, that hope can be rebuilt, and we will continue to stand with you." Lysera's eyes shone with gratitude and admiration. "Your people, humans, you have shown strength beyond what we expected, not just in battle but in heart. You did not turn away from our cry. You carried it with you and gave us life again." Elena smiled, tired but determined. "We did it together. That is what matters. Your people fought, your leaders inspired, and together we protected what we could. That is the power of unity." The survivors began to emerge from hiding. Children peered cautiously from shelters. Families reunited amidst the ruins, and volunteers worked to clear debris and tend to the wounded. Despite the devastation, life was returning. The city was no longer only a battlefield. It was a symbol of resilience. As the twin moons rose, casting silver light across the city, Elena walked beside Lysera. "Tomorrow," she said softly, "we rebuild. And the swarm? They will return. But we will be ready." Lysera nodded. "And next time we fight not just to survive, but to protect, to strike, and to show that we are more than victims. Together we can stand against anything." Elena's eyes scanned the horizon. Fires still burned, shadows still lurked. But for the first time in months, the city felt alive. Humans and Zephyrians had proven that intelligence, courage, and unity could overcome despair. Even in the face of a relentless enemy, the human spirit, and the spirit of cooperation, shone brightly. The night stretched on, but sleep was a luxury few could afford. Preparations continued for rebuilding defenses, caring for the injured, and planning the next steps against the swarm. Every action mattered, and every life was precious. Elena finally allowed herself a moment to breathe. She looked at Lysera, at her crew, at the survivors beginning to emerge, and felt a quiet pride. This was what humans were capable of. Not only surviving but inspiring hope, leading with courage, and uniting with others to overcome even the most impossible odds. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. Yet for now, on this scarred but resilient world, humans and Zephyrians stood together, ready to face whatever came next. They had survived the impossible, and in doing so, proved that hope, unity, and ingenuity could shine even in the darkest night. The city of Virelia lay quiet under the twin moons, though silence was fragile and temporary. Fires smoldered in some districts, and the distant hum of damaged machinery echoed through the streets. Captain Elena Reyes and Queen Lysera stood together on a small rise, surveying the city and the remaining swarm forces retreating to regroup. Elena's mind was already working ahead. "They'll be back," she said softly. "The swarm never stops. We need a final plan, something decisive, something that can end this threat before it consumes more of your people." Lysera nodded. "I have already considered the options, but even our combined forces may not be enough. We can hold them, delay them, but we need something unexpected." Elena studied the horizon, thinking of her crew and the Zephyrians' ingenuity. "Sometimes unexpected help comes from the most unlikely places," she said. Her eyes drifted toward the outskirts of the city, where a small group of human engineers had been working tirelessly, almost unnoticed, during the battle. They had been overlooked in the chaos, but their efforts were not meaningless. The engineers had been developing a network of improvised energy conduits, connecting the damaged defenses with the critical node that had disrupted the swarm earlier. Their work was subtle, precise, and unrecognized, but it had the potential to amplify the disruption and turn the tide. Elena realized that this small team could be the key. "Lysera," she said, "will coordinate with them. Their plan can create a chain reaction in the swarm's systems. If it works, it could incapacitate the entire force." The Queen's eyes widened with hope. "Then let us act quickly. Time is short, and the swarm grows stronger each moment." Elena called the engineers to the command center. "Your work has been incredible," she said, addressing them. "We need you to execute the final step. It's risky, but it's also the only chance we have. Are you ready?" The engineers exchanged determined glances. "We're ready, Captain," said the team leader. "Let's finish this." Preparation began immediately. Humans and Zephyrians worked together to ensure that every conduit, every connection, and every backup system was aligned. Strike teams took positions around the city to protect the engineers from any remaining swarm patrols. Civilians were moved to safer areas, and defenses were reinforced in critical zones. Elena led a final briefing. This is it. The swarm will not expect what we're about to do. We're combining our strengths, human ingenuity, Zypherian strategy, and courage. When the engineers trigger the chain reaction, every unit in the swarm network will falter. We have one chance to make it count. Remember, we fight not just for victory, but for survival, for hope, and for the people who rely on us. The engineers nodded, working with quiet determination. At the signal, energy began flowing through the conduits. Sparks danced along the connections as power surged from the remaining defensive systems into the critical node. The city seemed to hum in anticipation, alive with tension and possibility. From the horizon, the swarm advanced, larger and faster than ever. Its units were organized, adaptive, and relentless. But as they approached the city's core, the chain reaction began. Lights flickered across the swarm's forces. Sensors misfired and movements became erratic. The mechanical army slowed, units colliding with each other in confusion. Elena watched, heart pounding, as the engineers continued their work. Lysera moved among her people, coordinating defensive strikes and shielding civilians. The Zypherians fought with renewed courage, their movements precise and calculated. The humans pressed forward with bravery, improvising solutions on the fly, ensuring the swarm remained trapped in the disruption. "Almost there," Elena shouted. "Keep it steady." "Hold the conduits!" The swarm struggled to adapt, but the combination of human innovation and Zypherian strategy proved unstoppable. Machines that had seemed invincible moments before were now disabled or rendered ineffective. The chain reaction spread across the network, severing communication and coordination within the enemy ranks. Even the largest units, the ones that had caused the most fear, faltered. Sparks flew from their bodies as energy overloads rippled through their cores. The once relentless enemy stumbled and fell, unable to respond to the coordinated tactics of its opponents. A cheer erupted from the human and Zypherian forces. Civilians who had watched in fear and uncertainty now saw the impossible happen. Their enemies, thought to be unstoppable, were being defeated by courage, intelligence, and unity. Elena allowed herself a moment of relief, though she remained vigilant. "Check every sector," she ordered. "We can't let any units recover." The engineers completed the final adjustments, ensuring the disruption would last long enough for the swarm to be neutralized. Slowly, systematically, the remaining units ceased to function. The city was quiet, save for the hum of human and Zypherian activity as they tended to survivors and assessed the damage. Lysera approached Elena, her expression a mixture of exhaustion and gratitude. "Your people," she said softly. "You did not just fight. You saved us. You saved everyone. We never expected this." Elena smiled, though weariness weighed on her. "We all saved each other. Your people showed courage, intelligence, and strength. Humans, we just helped remind everyone of what they already had inside." Around them, the city slowly came alive with activity. Injured were treated, shelters reinforced, and families reunited. Children laughed quietly as they played near the edges of the cleared streets, their eyes wide with wonder at the humans who had fought beside them. Adults worked to rebuild homes and communal spaces, inspired by the hope that had been restored. Lysera watched her people with pride. "The galaxy may have ignored our cries," she said, "but now we know that help can come from unexpected places. Sometimes it comes from those we least expect, carrying courage and ingenuity." Elena nodded. "And sometimes the smallest actions can have the greatest impact. Those engineers you didn't notice, they changed everything. Every one of us has the ability to be that difference." As the twin moons rose high over the horizon, casting silver light over the city, the humans and Zypherians stood together, weary but unbroken. The swarm had been defeated, at least for now, and the city's inhabitants had been saved. But more than that, a bond had been forged between species, a bond built on trust, courage, and shared purpose. Lysera turned to Elena. "Your people, you have shown the best of what the universe can offer, not just strength but compassion, intelligence, and hope. I will never forget this." Elena placed a hand lightly on the Queen's arm. "And I will never forget your people. Today we learned that even in the darkest times, courage and unity can shine brighter than any fear." The surviving citizens of Virelia began to emerge from hiding places, some cautiously, some boldly. They approached the humans and Zypherians, offering gestures of gratitude and relief. The city, though scarred, was no longer a symbol of despair. It had become a symbol of resilience, ingenuity, and the extraordinary power that comes when different beings work together. Night gave way to dawn, and the light revealed the full extent of the city's recovery efforts. Humans and Zephyrians walked side by side, clearing debris, repairing energy grids, and setting up new shelters. The engineers, once unnoticed, were hailed as heroes, their quiet dedication having saved countless lives. Elena stood at the edge of a hill, looking down at the city. The smoke had thinned, fires were under control, and movement among the people was purposeful and calm. The swarm's remnants had been destroyed or disabled, and the immediate threat was gone. Lysera joined her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "This is only the beginning," she said. "The galaxy may still be indifferent, dangers may arise again. But now we know, together humans and Zephyrians can face anything." Elena smiled, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. "Then let the galaxy take notice. We will continue to stand together, not just for survival, but to protect, to defend, and to inspire hope wherever it is needed." For the first time in what felt like an eternity, Virelia was truly safe. The alien queen's desperate cry had been heard, and help had come from the most unexpected place: the courage, ingenuity, and compassion of humans. They had shown that even when the universe seemed indifferent, there was strength in action, wisdom in unity, and hope in the hearts of those willing to fight for it. And so, beneath the twin moons, the survivors of Virelia looked toward a future filled with possibility. The humans had arrived as strangers, but they left as heroes. The Zephyrians had seen that even in a galaxy filled with indifference, bravery, compassion, and intelligence could change everything. Together they had survived the impossible, and together they would build a new beginning, a future where courage and unity would shine brighter than any darkness that might come. The stars above twinkled as if acknowledging their triumph, silent witnesses to a story of courage, hope, and the extraordinary potential that lay within even the smallest and most unexpected acts.